The eggs were getting cold on my plate when Derek cleared his throat. It was 8 a.m. on New Year's Day and our children Tyler and Sophia were still asleep upstairs after staying up late to watch the ball drop. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon from the French toast I'd made, and winter sunlight streamed through the windows, making everything look peaceful. Normal. Safe. Then my husband of 10 years said the words that should have shattered my world. Naomi, I want a divorce. I looked up from my coffee, meeting his eyes across our kitchen table. Derek shifted in his seat, clearly expecting tears, screaming, or at least shock. He'd rehearsed this moment, I could tell. His shoulders were tense, his jaw set, ready for battle. Instead I smiled. Okay, I said simply, taking another sip of my coffee. That's fine. His eyes widened. What? I said okay. If that's what you want, we can file next week. I cut a piece of French toast, my hand steady. You can have full custody of Tyler and Sophia too. I know how much you love being their father. Derek's mouth opened and closed. The speech he'd prepared, all his careful justifications, dissolved on his tongue. You're giving me the kids? Just like that. Just like that. I dabbed my napkin at the corner of my mouth. I'll still see them, of course. But you should have primary custody. You're their father. I don't understand. He leaned back in his chair, wearing the blue sweater I'd given him for Christmas just a week ago. You're not going to fight me? Why would I fight you, Derek? I met his confused gaze with a calm I'd spent 3 months perfecting. If you want out of this marriage, then you should be out. And the children should be with their father. I'll get an apartment nearby. We'll work out a schedule. He studied my face, searching for the trap. There had to be a trap. Women didn't just let their husbands walk away with their children. Women didn't smile when their marriages ended. But I did. Because 3 months ago, on a Thursday afternoon in early October, I'd found the texts on Derek's phone. Texts to Amber, his assistant. Texts that left nothing to the imagination. And instead of confronting him that day, I'd made a different choice. I'd started planning. I need to think about this, Derek said finally, pushing back from the table. This isn't how I expected this conversation to go. Take your time. I stood, collecting the plates. I'm going to shower. The kids will be up soon. Maybe we should tell them together? Or would you prefer to wait a few days? Jesus, Naomi. He ran a hand through his hair. You're acting like we're discussing dinner plans. We're discussing our future. I'm just trying to be mature about it. I paused at the sink, looking back at him. Unless you've changed your mind? No. No, I haven't. He stood abruptly. I'll pack some things. I'm going to stay somewhere else for a while. That's probably best, I agreed. I washed the dishes while Derek went upstairs. The water ran warm over my hands and I focused on the simple task, breathing slowly. This was it. The moment I'd been waiting for. The moment he'd finally said it out loud instead of sneaking around thinking I was too stupid to notice. Because I'd noticed everything. I'd noticed when he started working late 3 nights a week, always on the same nights. I'd noticed when he bought new cologne, something younger and sharper than what he usually wore. I'd noticed when he started going to the gym religiously when he'd barely exercised in years. And I'd noticed Amber, 28 and hungry, looking at my husband like he was a prize she'd already won. What they didn't know was that I'd been looking too. Not at them but at the numbers. At Derek's real estate development company, where Amber worked as his assistant. At the accounts she had access to. At the money that had been disappearing in small amounts for the past 6 months. Derek thought he was leaving me for a younger woman and a fresh start. What he didn't know was that Amber had been stealing from him systematically, setting up accounts he didn't know about, preparing for her own future while he was too distracted by her attention to notice. I found it all. Bank statements, transfer records, email trails. I copied everything and stored it in 3 different places. And I'd said nothing. Because I wanted him to leave. I wanted him to choose her, to blow up our life himself. That way, when everything collapsed, when the truth came out, he would have no one to blame but himself. Footsteps on the stairs brought me back to the present. Derek appeared with 2 suitcases, his face set in determination. I'll come back for the rest later. And I'll find a lawyer this week. I already have one, I said. James Robertson. You remember him from college? He does family law now. He can recommend someone for you if you'd like. Derek stared at me. You already have a lawyer? I believe in being prepared. I dried my hands on a dish towel, the fabric bright red against my brown skin. Let me know where you're staying so I can bring the children by this weekend. I'm staying with Amber, he said, and there it was. The confession he'd been holding back, probably hoping I'd force it out of him so he could feel less guilty. Okay. I nodded. Text me the address. He waited, clearly wanting something from me. Anger, hurt, some sign that this mattered. When I just stood there, calm and pleasant, he picked up his suitcases and walked to the door. This is weird, Naomi, he said. You're being weird. I'm being practical, I corrected. Have a good day, Derek. The door closed behind him. I heard his car start in the driveway, heard the crunch of tires on the light snow we'd gotten overnight. And then silence. I walked to the living room window and watched him drive away. Watched my husband leave our home, our children, our life. Watched him drive toward what he thought was freedom. Goodbye, I whispered to the empty street. Upstairs, I heard Tyler's door open. Then Sophia's voice calling for me. They'd be confused when they saw their father's car was gone, when they noticed the missing suitcases later. But I'd explain it in a way they could understand. Daddy needed some space. Daddy was going to live somewhere else for a while. Mommy and Daddy still loved them very much. All the usual lies people told their children when marriages ended. Except in this case, I had one truth I'd hold close. Their father had made his choice. And in making it, he'd given me exactly what I needed to build something better. Because while Derek had been planning his exit, I'd been planning mine too. My old architecture firm had laid me off 2 years ago when they downsized, and I'd been doing freelance work from home ever since. Small projects, nothing major. Or so Derek thought. What he didn't know was that I'd been building my own firm. I had 3 major clients already lined up, contracts signed, deposits paid. I had an office space rented downtown, ready to open in 2 weeks. I had a business plan, a website, and a reputation I'd been carefully rebuilding through strategic networking and smaller projects that showcased my skills. I had a separate bank account with 6 months of living expenses saved up. I had documentation of every cent Derek and I owned, every asset, every debt. And I had patience. Because Derek was about to discover that Amber wasn't the prize he thought she was. He was about to discover that his business was in serious trouble. He was about to discover that being a single father to 2 young children was harder than he'd imagined. And when it all fell apart, when he came running back, I would smile again. I would smile and close the door in his face. Because some mistakes don't deserve second chances. Tyler appeared at the bottom of the stairs, his hair sticking up in every direction, wearing his favorite green pajamas. Mom? Where's Dad? I knelt down and opened my arms. He ran into them, warm and sleepy in mine. Daddy had to go take care of some things, I said softly. But you know what? How about we make pancakes? The kind with chocolate chips that he always says are too sweet. Tyler's face lit up. Really? Really? As I stood and took my son's hand, leading him toward the kitchen where his sister would join us soon, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Oh. Derek came back on Tuesday with a moving truck. I'd already told the children that Daddy was going to live in a different house for a while, and they'd accepted it with the resilience children have when they don't fully understand what's happening. You can keep the furniture, I told him as he stood in the living room, looking around like he was seeing our home for the first time. I'm going to redecorate anyway. Naomi, we need to talk about this. He'd barely slept, I could tell. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. About what? I was folding laundry, Sophia's clothes in a neat pile. Bright colors, pinks and yellows and blues. About how calm you're being. About how you're just letting me walk away. I set down the small blue dress I was holding. Derek, you asked for a divorce. I agreed. What exactly is there to talk about? Most women would be upset. I'm not most women. I smiled at him. Did you want me to be upset? Is that what this is about? He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I'd seen 1,000 times when he was frustrated. I want you to act like you care that our marriage is ending. I care about Tyler and Sophia, I said. I care about making this transition as smooth as possible for them. Speaking of which, I've packed their things for you. 3 suitcases upstairs. Clothes, toys, schoolbooks. Everything they'll need. His face went pale. You're really doing this. You're really giving them to me. You're their father. You asked for a divorce. This is what divorce looks like. I picked up another piece of clothing. Unless you don't want custody? No, I do. I just thought you'd fight me on it. Why would I fight you on something you want? I looked at him directly. You've made your choice, Derek. I'm respecting that choice. He left that afternoon with Tyler and Sophia, who waved at me from the back seat of his car. Sophia was crying a little, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Tyler looked confused but brave. I blew them kisses and promised to see them soon. The house felt empty when they were gone. For a moment, standing in the sudden silence, I let myself feel it. The loss, the anger, the hurt. Then I pulled out my phone and called my mother. Patricia arrived 30 minutes later with Chinese food and a bottle of wine. My mother was 58, retired from teaching elementary school, and the strongest woman I knew. She took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. "Tell me everything," she said. So I did. I told her about finding the texts, about Amber, about Derek's announcement. And then I told her about what I'd discovered. "You found proof she's stealing from him?" Patricia's eyes went wide. "Proof, documentation, everything." I pulled out my laptop and showed her the files I'd compiled. Bank transfers, email records, account statements. She's been siphoning money for months. Small amounts at first, then larger ones. Derek's company is losing money, and he has no idea why. "And you didn't tell him?" "Why would I?" I took a sip of wine. "He chose to betray our family. He chose to trust her over me. Let him learn the hard way." Patricia studied me for a long moment. "You've changed, sweetheart." "I've gotten stronger." I met her eyes. For 10 years I put Derek first. I gave up my career to stay home with the babies when his business was just starting. I supported him through every setback, every challenge. And the moment a 28-year-old paid attention to him, he threw it all away. "So you're going to let him destroy himself?" "I'm going to let consequences happen." I opened another file on my laptop. "And while he's dealing with those consequences, I'm going to rebuild. Look." I showed her my business plan. My client contracts. The office space I'd rented. The website that would go live next week. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "Oh, Naomi. This is incredible. I've been working on it for 2 months. Ever since I found out about Amber." I closed the laptop. "I'm calling it Collins Architecture. Using my maiden name. Fresh start. How are you affording all this? Remember when Grandma died and left me that money? Derek wanted to invest it in his company. I told him I did, but I actually put it in a separate account. That's my seed money. I felt no guilt about this. None. Plus I've been doing freelance work he didn't know about. Small jobs here and there. I've saved almost every penny." Patricia laughed, the sound bright with pride. "You sneaky genius. I learned from the best." I smiled at her. "You always told me to have my own money. I just never thought I'd need to use it like this." We spent the evening going over my plans. Patricia, ever the teacher, asked good questions and poked holes where my thinking was weak. By the time she left, I had a clearer vision of what the next few months would look like. On Wednesday, I met with James at his office downtown. We'd been friends in college, lost touch for a few years, then reconnected at a mutual friend's wedding. When I'd realized I might need a lawyer, I'd reached out. "So he actually asked for the divorce?" James leaned back in his leather chair, his office bright with afternoon sunlight. "On New Year's Day. Very romantic." I handed him a folder. "Here's everything. The texts I found, though I know those might not be admissible. The financial records showing our assets. The deed to the house, which is in both our names. And this." I handed him a second folder, thicker than the first. James opened it and let out a low whistle. "This is evidence of embezzlement." "I know. You're not going to tell him?" "Not yet." I crossed my legs, my red dress bright against the dark furniture. "Let him figure it out on his own. I want the divorce finalized first. I don't want him running back to me because his life is falling apart. I want it done because that's what he asked for." James studied me. "You're angrier than you're letting on." "I'm furious," I admitted. "But I'm also smart enough to know that anger doesn't help me right now. Patience does. Strategy does." "What about the kids?" "He has them right now. Full time." I saw the concern on James's face and held up a hand. "I know how it looks. But Derek is about to discover that parenting 2 children alone while trying to run a failing business and maintain a relationship with a woman who doesn't care about those children is impossible. He'll crack within a month. And then I'll take them back. On my terms. With a custody arrangement that actually makes sense." I pulled out another document. "I want you to draw up papers for primary custody to me, with reasonable visitation for Derek. Don't file them yet. Just have them ready." James made notes. "You've really thought this through." "I've had 3 months to think." I stood. "One more thing. I'm opening my own architecture firm. Collins Architecture. It launches next week. I need to make sure Derek can't claim any ownership of it in the divorce." "Did you use marital funds to start it?" "No. Only my inheritance and my own freelance income. I've kept meticulous records." "Good." James smiled. "I'll make sure it's protected. Naomi, I have to say I'm impressed. Most people in your situation would be falling apart." I fell apart 3 months ago in private where no one could see. I picked up my purse. Now I'm building something better. That night, I visited Tyler and Sophia at Derek's new apartment. He'd rented a place across town, a sterile 2-bedroom with beige walls and carpet that smelled faintly of cleaning solution. The children ran to me the moment I arrived. "Mommy?" Sophia wrapped her arms around my legs. "I missed you. I missed you too, baby." I knelt down and hugged them both. "Are you being good for Daddy?" "Amber doesn't like us," Tyler said quietly. I looked up at Derek, who was standing in the kitchen looking uncomfortable. "Is Amber here often?" "She lives here," Tyler said before Derek could answer. "I see." I kept my voice neutral. "Well, that's Daddy's choice. But you two remember that you can call me anytime, okay? Day or night." We sat on the floor and played games for an hour. Amber appeared once, wearing expensive yoga pants and a tight tank top, barely glancing at the children before disappearing into the bedroom. She didn't greet me. I didn't acknowledge her. When I left, Tyler held onto my hand. "Do we have to stay here?" "Just for a little while," I said, kissing his forehead. "But I'll see you very soon. I promise." Derek walked me to the door. "They're having trouble adjusting. They're children. Their world just changed." I looked at him. "How's work?" "Fine. Busy." He shifted his weight. "Actually, there's been some accounting issues. Robert's looking into it. I'm sure you'll figure it out." I kept my expression sympathetic. "Well, good night, Derek." Driving home, I felt the first real crack in my armor. Seeing my children in that sterile apartment, seeing their confusion and sadness, hurt more than I'd expected. But I couldn't take them back yet. Not yet. Because if I took them back now, Derek would think he could have everything. The divorce, the new woman, and the freedom of not being a full-time parent. No. He needed to understand what he was losing. He needed to feel the weight of his choices. And then, when his world came crashing down, when Amber's betrayal was exposed, when his business crumbled, I would be there. Not to save him, but to take back what was mine. The sign arrived on Friday. Collins Architecture, in sleek silver letters against a deep blue background. Monica helped me hang it on the door of my new office, a bright corner space on the 3rd floor of a renovated building downtown. "It's perfect," Monica said, stepping back to admire our work. My best friend since college, Monica owned a boutique clothing store 2 blocks away. She'd been my sounding board through everything, the only person besides my mother who knew the full extent of my planning. "How does it feel?" "Terrifying," I admitted. "And incredible." The office was small but modern, with large windows that let in natural light. I'd furnished it simply: a desk, 2 client chairs, a drafting table, and shelves for my books and samples. My computer was set up, my software licensed and ready. On Monday, I'd officially be in business. "I still can't believe you pulled this together so quietly," Monica said, settling into one of the client chairs. She was wearing a bright green dress, her hair in neat braids. Derek had no idea? Derek stopped paying attention to me about a year ago. I sat at my desk, running my hand over the smooth surface. He assumed because I wasn't working for a firm anymore that I wasn't working at all. He never asked what I did all day. His loss. Monica pulled out her phone. "Okay, so I've been talking you up to everyone I know. I've got 3 potential clients who want to meet with you next week. 2 residential renovations and 1 small commercial project. You're amazing. I'm invested in your success." She grinned. "Plus, I can't wait to see Derek's face when he realizes you're thriving without him." My phone buzzed. A text from Derek: "Kids are asking for you. Can you take them tomorrow?" I showed Monica the message. "What are you going to say?" she asked. "No." I typed back. "I have plans tomorrow. You'll have them all weekend as discussed. See them Sunday evening." His response came quickly: "Naomi, please. I'm swamped with work and Amber's not comfortable watching them alone." "Not my problem anymore," I said out loud, then texted, "You have full custody. You'll figure it out." Monica watched me. "That's cold. That's consequences." I set the phone down. He wanted this. He gets to live with it. We spent the afternoon setting up the rest of the office. Monica had a good eye for aesthetics, and she helped me arrange everything to look professional yet welcoming. When we finished, we stood in the doorway looking at what I'd built. To new beginnings, Monica raised an imaginary glass. To freedom, I responded. That evening James called. "I've drafted the custody papers. Whenever you're ready, we can file." Not yet. I was cooking dinner in my quiet house, something simple just for myself. Give it another few weeks. Let Derek really feel what he asked for. Naomi, I have to ask. Are you sure about this strategy? What if something happens to the kids while they're with him? Derek's not a bad father. He's selfish and he made terrible choices, but he won't let anything happen to them. I stirred the pasta. And I'm checking in constantly. If I thought they were in danger, I'd act immediately. Okay. I trust you. James paused. Also, I looked over the embezzlement evidence you gave me. Solid. When this comes out, Derek's partner could press charges. Good. You really want to see him suffer, don't you? I want to see justice, I corrected. There's a difference. On Saturday, I worked on my first major project, a residential renovation for a client Monica had referred. The couple wanted to open up their first floor, create more light and flow. I lost myself in the design work, something I hadn't been able to do in years. This was what I loved. Creating spaces, solving problems, seeing how form and function could merge into something beautiful. Sunday evening, I picked up Tyler and Sophia from Derek's apartment. They ran to me with obvious relief. How was your weekend? I asked, buckling Sophia into her car seat. Daddy was on the phone a lot, Tyler said. He seemed mad. And Amber stayed in her room almost the whole time, Sophia added. She said we were too loud. I bit back my anger. Well, you're coming home with me now. We'll have a fun evening. At home, we made pizza together, the kitchen filling with laughter and the smell of melting cheese. Tyler told me about school, about his friends, about a book he was reading. Sophia showed me a drawing she'd made, a family portrait with 4 stick figures. That's beautiful, baby, I said, though I noticed Derek and I were on opposite sides of the paper. After they were in bed, I sat in the living room with a glass of wine and my laptop. I'd gotten 3 emails from potential clients, all wanting consultations. My website had been visited over 200 times since launching. My business was growing faster than I'd projected. My phone rang. Derek. Hello. Naomi, we need to talk about the custody arrangement. He sounded stressed. What about it? I can't do this full time. It's too much with work and everything else going on. What's going on with work? I asked innocently. We've discovered some financial irregularities. Money's missing. Robert thinks it might be fraud. He sighed heavily. And Amber, she's not comfortable being around the kids so much. She didn't sign up for this. Didn't sign up for dating a man with children? I kept my voice mild. That's interesting. Don't start, Naomi. I'm not starting anything. You called me. I took a sip of wine. What do you want, Derek? I want you to take the kids during the week. I'll have them on weekends. No. Silence. Then, no. You asked for full custody. You have full custody. I'm not bailing you out because it's harder than you thought it would be. This is about the kids, not about us. You're absolutely right. It is about the kids. And they need to be with a parent who actually wants them full-time, who doesn't see them as an inconvenience. I stood, walking to the window. When you're ready to admit you made a mistake, when you're ready to give me primary custody legally, we can talk. Until then, you figure it out. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking. Patricia would have been proud of me. Monica would have cheered. But alone in my house, I let myself feel the weight of what I was doing. I was playing a dangerous game. I was betting that Derek would break before permanent damage was done. I was gambling with my children's short-term happiness for their long-term well-being. Because I knew deep in my bones that Derek couldn't sustain this. He couldn't be a full-time father, run a failing business, and maintain a relationship with a woman who'd been stealing from him. Something would give. And when it did, I'd be ready. On Monday morning, I walked into Collins Architecture for my first official day of business. I wore a royal blue suit, my hair pulled back, my head high. My first client meeting was at 10. A young couple wanting to renovate their kitchen. They were nervous, excited, full of ideas. I listened, took notes, sketched preliminary concepts. By the time they left, they'd signed a contract. At lunch, Monica brought sandwiches and we ate in my office. How does it feel? She asked. Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, I said. And for the first time in months, I meant it. Robert Mitchell stood in Derek's office with a file folder in his hands and fury in his eyes. I heard about it later from Derek himself, during one of our tense phone calls about the children. We're missing over $50,000, Robert had said, dropping the folder on Derek's desk. And all the transfers traced back to accounts Amber had access to. I wish I could have seen Derek's face in that moment. The moment when his fantasy started crumbling. But I was in my own office that Tuesday afternoon, meeting with my third client of the week. Business was growing faster than I'd anticipated. Apparently, There was a market for an architect who actually listened to what people wanted instead of imposing a signature style. Tyler called me that night, crying, "Mom, can you come get us?" His voice was small, scared. "What's wrong, baby?" I was immediately alert, ready to drop everything. "Dad and Amber are fighting. They're yelling really loud. Amber said she doesn't want us here anymore. Put your father on the phone." There was shuffling, then Derek's voice, tight with stress. "Naomi, what's going on there?" "Nothing. Just a disagreement. The kids are fine." "Tyler is crying." "That's not fine." I kept my voice calm. "Do you need me to come get them tonight?" "No. I said they're fine." He lowered his voice. "Look, I'm dealing with some stuff at work. Amber's upset about it. It's not about the kids. It's always about the kids, Derek. They can hear you fighting." I paused. "I can be there in 20 minutes. "No." His voice was firm. "I'm handling it." After he hung up, I sat staring at my phone. Every instinct screamed at me to go get my children, to take them out of that toxic environment. But I also knew that if I did, Derek would never learn. He'd keep them on weekends, maintain his relationship with Amber, and never face the full weight of his choices. So I called Tyler back. "Hey buddy, you okay?" "Yeah." He sounded calmer. "Dad said sorry for yelling." "Good. Listen, if you ever feel scared or unsafe, you call me immediately." "Promise?" "I promise. I love you." Put Sophia on. I talked to my daughter for 10 minutes, silly conversation about her dolls and her favorite show, until she was giggling. When we hung up, I felt like the worst mother in the world. Patricia came over that night with dinner. She took one look at my face and said, "What happened?" I told her everything. "Naomi, maybe it's time to take them back," she said gently. "You've made your point." "Not yet." I pushed food around my plate. "Derek still thinks he can handle this. He still thinks Amber is worth keeping. He needs to see the full truth. And if the kids get hurt in the process? They won't. I'm watching closely." I met her eyes. "Mom, if I take them back now, Derek gets everything he wants. The divorce, the girlfriend, and freedom from full-time parenting. He needs to understand that actions have consequences." "Sometimes I forget how stubborn you are," Patricia said, but there was pride in her voice. "You get that from me." Wednesday brought unexpected news. Monica called, excited. "You're not going to believe this. Do you remember the Henderson Community Center project? The one that's been in planning for 2 years? It was a major development, a renovation of an old building into a multi-use community space. Every architect in the city had wanted that contract. They want to meet with you. The board saw your website, and apparently one of the members used to work with you at your old firm. She recommended you." My heart raced. "When?" "Friday, 2 p.m. Naomi, if you land this, you're set. This is a huge project." After Monica hung up, I sat in my office, hardly believing it. This was the kind of project that could establish my firm, that could set me up for years. This was beyond anything I'd hoped for so soon. I called James. "I need to make sure Derek can't claim any part of my business, especially if I land a major contract this week." "I've got you covered. Your business is entirely separate from marital assets." He paused. "How are things going with him?" "His company is imploding. Amber's been stealing from him. He's stressed, overwhelmed, and starting to crack." "And you're thriving?" "Yes." I didn't feel guilty about it. Not anymore. Thursday afternoon, Derek showed up at my house unannounced. I was working from home, reviewing the proposal I'd put together for the Henderson Center. When the doorbell rang, I found him standing on my porch, looking exhausted. "Can we talk?" he asked. I let him in, offering coffee. He declined. "I need help with the kids," he started. "Just during the week. You can have them Monday through Friday, I'll take weekends." "No. Naomi, please. I'm drowning here. Work is a disaster. Robert's talking about dissolving our partnership. I've got auditors coming in. And the kids, they need stability. Then give me primary custody. Legally. We'll go to court, make it official. You can have them every other weekend and 1 night a week for dinner." His face hardened. "That's not what I'm asking for. That's what I'm offering." I crossed my arms. "You wanted full custody, Derek. You got it. If you can't handle it, if you realize you made a mistake, then we do this properly. Through the courts. With legal custody arrangements that protect the children." "You're punishing me." "I'm protecting myself and our children." I stood. "You walked out on our marriage. You moved in with your mistress. You took our children into that situation. Now you're discovering it's not the paradise you imagined, and you want me to fix it. That's not my job anymore." When did you become so cold? He looked at me like he didn't know me. When I had to. I walked to the door, opening it. Figure it out, Derek. Or sign the custody papers James will be sending over. He left without another word. That night I took a long bath and let myself cry. Not for Derek, but for the life I'd thought I had. The marriage I'd believed in. The partnership I'd trusted. And then I dried my tears, got out of the tub, and prepared for my meeting with the Henderson Center board. Friday afternoon, I walked into that conference room in my red power suit, my presentation polished and ready. 7 board members sat around the table. I recognized one, Margaret Chin, who'd been a senior partner at my old firm. Naomi, she greeted me warmly. It's wonderful to see you again. I've been following your new venture with great interest. The presentation went perfectly. I showed them my vision for the space, how to honor the building's history while modernizing it for community use. I demonstrated understanding of their budget constraints and timeline concerns. I answered every question with confidence. When I left 90 minutes later, they promised a decision by Monday. Monica was waiting at my office with champagne. How did it go? She demanded. I think I nailed it. I accepted the glass she poured. They seemed impressed. Of course they were. You're brilliant. She clinked her glass against mine. To Naomi Collins, rising star architect. To surviving, I said quietly. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek. Amber moved out. Can you please take the kids for a few days? I showed Monica. What are you going to say? She asked. I thought about Tyler's scared voice on the phone. About Sophia's confusion. About the delicate balance I was trying to maintain. Then I texted back. No. But I'll come visit them tomorrow afternoon. That's harsh, Monica observed. That's necessary, I replied. Because Derek still hadn't admitted he was wrong. He still wanted the easy way out. He still thought he could have his freedom and shift the hard parts of parenting onto me. And I wasn't going to let him. Not until he really understood what he'd lost. The auditors finished their investigation on Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, Robert Mitchell had scheduled an emergency meeting with Derek. By Monday evening, my phone was ringing with Derek's name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. James called instead. Robert Mitchell just contacted me. He wants to know if you have any additional information about Amber's theft. Why would I have information? I asked innocently. Naomi. James's voice held a warning. Did you know about this before Derek did? I knew, I admitted. I found evidence months ago. And you didn't tell him? He made his choice to trust her. I made mine to protect myself. I was in my office, reviewing the preliminary approval I'd received from the Henderson Center. They wanted to move forward, pending final board vote next week. What did Robert want? He's considering pressing charges. He wants any documentation you might have. I'll send it to you tonight. You can forward it to him. After we hung up, I sat looking at the city outside my window. Below, people moved through their lives, unaware that someone's world was ending a few miles away. Derek called 4 more times that evening. I didn't answer. Finally, he texted, Please. I need to talk to you about Amber. I texted back. I know about the embezzlement. I've known for months. My phone immediately rang. This time I answered. You knew. His voice was hoarse. You knew she was stealing from me and you said nothing? Why would I say anything? I kept my tone even. You chose her over me. Over our family. You wanted her in your life. I wasn't going to save you from that choice. $53,000, Naomi. She stole $53,000. The company might not survive this. I'm sorry to hear that. You're sorry? He laughed, the sound bitter. You're not sorry. You wanted this to happen. I didn't want you to be betrayed, Derek. But I'm not surprised that you were. That's what happens when you trust the wrong people. I need those documents. Robert wants to press charges. James has everything. He'll forward it to Robert's attorney. I paused. How are the children? They're fine. Confused about Amber leaving, but fine. I'll come by tomorrow after school to see them. Naomi, wait. His voice cracked. I made a mistake. I know that now. Can we talk about maybe trying again? My heart, which had raced at those words months ago in my fantasies, stayed steady. No. Just like that? No. You didn't break a dish, Derek. You didn't forget an anniversary. You had an affair. You asked for a divorce. You moved your mistress into an apartment with our children. My voice was calm, factual. And now that it's all falling apart, now that you're facing consequences, you want to undo it. But you can't. People make mistakes. Yes, they do. And people also live with the results of those mistakes. I stood, walking to my window. I'm building a new life. A good life. And you're not part of it. Because you won't forgive me? Because I don't want to. The truth of it settled over me. I spent 10 years putting you first. Your career, your needs, your dreams. I gave up my job to support yours. And the moment you had a chance to chase something shiny and new, you didn't hesitate. I was wrong. Yes, you were. But being wrong doesn't earn you a second chance. I checked my watch. I have an early meeting tomorrow. Good night, Derek. I hung up before he could respond. Tuesday brought good news and bad news simultaneously. The good, the Henderson Center Board approved my proposal. I had the contract, a major project that would establish my firm and provide steady income for the next year. The bad, Tyler's school called. He'd gotten in a fight with another student. He'd never been in trouble before. I left work immediately and drove to the school. Tyler sat in the principal's office, his face streaked with tears, a bruise forming on his cheek. Tyler. I knelt in front of him. What happened? A kid said my parents were getting divorced because my mom didn't want us anymore, he sobbed. He said you gave us away. I told him that wasn't true and he laughed, so I pushed him. My heart broke and mended simultaneously. Oh baby. I looked at the principal, a kind woman named Mrs. Patterson. Can I take him home? He's suspended for the rest of the day. We have a zero-tolerance policy for physical altercations. She looked sympathetic. But given the circumstances, we understand this is a difficult time. In the car, Tyler leaned against the window, quiet. That boy was wrong, I said gently. I didn't give you away. I love you more than anything in the world. Then why are we living with Dad? How did you explain adult failures to a child? How did you make an 8-year-old understand strategy and consequences and the complex calculus of divorce? Because sometimes, I said carefully, grown-ups make decisions that are hard to understand. Your dad asked for something and I gave it to him. But that doesn't mean I don't want you. I want to live with you. His voice was small. Sophia does too. Dad's always stressed and Amber was mean and now she's gone and Dad works all the time and I miss you. I pulled into my driveway and turned off the car. Come here. Tyler unbuckled and climbed into my lap, something he hadn't done in over a year. He was getting too big for it, his legs hanging awkwardly, but I held him anyway. I'm going to fix this, I promised. Soon. Very soon. Really? Really? That evening I called James. Draw up the custody papers. I want to file tomorrow. What changed? Tyler got in a fight at school today. A kid said I didn't want my children. Derek's too overwhelmed to actually parent them and they're suffering for it. I felt the anger finally surface. I gave Derek enough rope to hang himself. He's done it. Now I want my children back. I'll have papers ready by tomorrow afternoon. Next I called Derek. We need to meet. Tomorrow night. Without the children. About what? About custody. About ending this properly. He agreed and we set a time. Wednesday evening we met at a coffee shop halfway between our homes. Derek looked terrible. Thinner, dark circles under his eyes, wearing a wrinkled blue shirt. Thank you for meeting me, he started. I'm not here to reconcile, I said immediately. I'm here to discuss the children. His face fell. Naomi. Tyler got in a fight at school. He's acting out because he's unhappy. Sophia is regressing, wetting the bed again. They need stability. They need to be with me full-time. I can do better. I just need time to adjust. No. I pushed the custody papers across the table. Primary custody to me. You get them every other weekend and Wednesday evenings for dinner. That's it. That's barely anything. That's what you can handle. I met his eyes. Be honest, Derek. You're working 60 hours a week trying to save your company. Robert's probably going to leave your partnership. You're facing potential lawsuits from Amber's theft. You don't have the bandwidth to be a full-time parent. He stared at the papers. Sign them, I said quietly. Do one thing right in all of this. Put your children first. And us. There is no us. There's you and there's me and there's our children who we're going to co-parent as civilly as possible. I stood. You have until Friday to sign. After that, I file for emergency custody and we do this the hard way. I left him sitting there, the papers in front of him, the weight of his choices finally, fully settling on his shoulders. Patricia called that night. How did it go? I gave him an ultimatum. I was packing Tyler and Sophia's favorite things, getting their rooms ready for their return. He'll sign. He doesn't have a choice. And if he doesn't? Then I fight. But he will. I folded Sophia's purple pajamas. He's broken, Mom. He finally understands what he lost. Good, Patricia said fiercely. Let him sit with that. Thursday morning James called. Derek signed. He also agreed to mediation for the divorce settlement. He's not going to fight you on anything. Relief flooded through me. Really? Really? I think he's given up. James paused. Naomi, you did it. You got everything you wanted. Not everything, I said, looking at the photos on my desk. My children's smiling faces from before their world changed. But I got what matters most. Friday afternoon, I picked up Tyler and Sophia from Derek's apartment. They'd been told about the custody change and they were packed and ready. We're coming home? Sophia asked, her eyes wide. You're coming home, I confirmed. They cheered, grabbing their bags. Derek stood in the doorway watching us leave. He looked defeated, empty. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For all of it. I know you are. I looked at him, this man I'd spent 10 years with. But sorry doesn't fix everything. At home, the children ran through the house like they'd been gone for years instead of weeks. They rediscovered their toys, their rooms, their space. That night we had pizza and watched movies, all three of us piled on the couch. Mom? Tyler asked as I was tucking him in later. Yeah, buddy? Are you happy now? I thought about it. About my successful business, about my independence, about my children safe in their beds. Yes, I said. I am. And I meant it. The lawsuit papers arrived at Derek's apartment on a Monday morning, delivered by a serious-looking process server. Amber, through her attorney, was suing for wrongful termination. Derek called me, panicked. She's saying I fired her because of our relationship. She's claiming discrimination and asking for damages. Do you have documentation of the embezzlement? I was at my drafting table working on initial sketches for the Henderson Center. My phone was on speaker. Yes, everything you gave James. But her lawyer is arguing that our relationship complicates things. That I can't prove the theft and the termination weren't related to us breaking up. That's for your lawyer to handle, Derek. Not me. I added a window detail to my sketch. Robert's leaving the partnership. He doesn't want to be associated with any of this. The company's going under, Naomi. His voice cracked. I'm going to lose everything. Part of me felt satisfaction at that. The part that had found those texts, that had watched him pack his bags, that had seen my children cry. But another part, a smaller part, felt something like pity. I'm sorry that's happening, I said, and I meant it in a distant way. Sorry the way you're sorry when you hear about a stranger's misfortune. Is that all you have to say? What do you want me to say, Derek? That I'll help you? That I'll testify on your behalf? I gave you all the evidence I had. That's all I can do. You could have warned me about her months ago. And you could have not cheated on me. We all make choices. I set down my pencil. I have to go. I have a client meeting. After hanging up, I sat for a moment, processing. Derek's world was truly collapsing. His business, his reputation, his relationship, all of it crumbling. And I had known it would happen. I had watched it unfold with clinical detachment. Did that make me cruel? Monica didn't think so. We had lunch that day at her boutique, sitting in the back office with salads and iced tea. He did this to himself, she said firmly. You just didn't stop him. But I knew. I knew what Amber was doing and I said nothing. Because warning him would have meant saving him. And why should you save the man who betrayed you? Monica pointed her fork at me. Naomi, stop second-guessing yourself. You protected your interests and your children. That's not cruel. That's smart. Tyler asked if I was happy. I said yes. But there's this part of me that feels guilty for being happy while Derek's life falls apart. That's the part that loved him. The part that spent 10 years being his partner. Monica's voice softened. That part will always feel something for him. But it doesn't mean you should have acted differently. She was right, I knew. But knowing and feeling were different things. That evening, Tyler had a meltdown over homework. Math problems that should have been simple frustrated him to tears. I sat with him at the kitchen table, patient, working through each problem. I'm stupid, he said, crumpling his worksheet. You're not stupid. You're having a hard time because you've had a lot of changes lately. I smoothed out the paper. Let's try again together? After the kids were in bed, Patricia came over. She'd started spending more time at my house, helping with the children, supporting me as I juggled parenting and my business. Derek called me today, she said, settling on the couch with tea. What did he want? To ask me to talk to you about giving him another chance. Patricia shook her head. I told him that ship had sailed. Good. I sat beside her. Mom, do you think I'm being too hard on him? No. She didn't hesitate. He made adult choices. He gets adult consequences. You didn't create this situation, Naomi. You just refused to rescue him from it. But seeing him suffer bothers you because you're a good person. But it shouldn't change your mind. She squeezed my hand. You're doing the right thing. For you and for those babies upstairs. Wednesday evening, Derek came for his scheduled dinner with the children. We'd agreed he'd pick them up at 6 and have them back by 8. He arrived on time, driving a different car, something older and cheaper than his usual vehicle. Sold the Audi, he said when he saw me notice. Needed the money. Tyler and Sophia ran to him, and despite everything, they were happy to see their father. That was good, I thought. Whatever Derek had done to me, he was still their dad. We'll be at the pizza place on Maple, he told me. I'll have them back by 8. While they were gone, I worked on the Henderson Center designs. The project was consuming, challenging, exactly what I needed. I'd hired a junior architect to help, a recent graduate named Alicia who was talented and eager. My business was growing. I had 6 active projects now, ranging from small residential renovations to the major community center. I'd had to rent additional office space and was considering bringing on another employee. Derek's call interrupted me at 7:30. Can I bring them back at 8:30? They're having such a good time. 8 o'clock like we agreed, I said. Sophia has school tomorrow and needs her routine. 30 minutes won't hurt. Derek, we have an agreement. Please stick to it. He sighed but agreed. They were back at 8 on the dot. After the children were in bed, Derek lingered at the door. Can we talk for a minute? About what? About us. There is no us. I kept my voice gentle but firm. There could be. If you'd just give me a chance to prove I've changed. He looked desperate. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But people deserve second chances. Some people do, I agreed. But not everyone. And not every situation. So that's it? 10 years of marriage, 2 children together, and you're just done. You were done the moment you texted Amber the first time. I'm just catching up. I stepped back. Good night, Derek. I closed the door, leaning against it as I heard his footsteps retreat down the walkway. My hands were shaking but my resolve was steady. James called the next morning with news. Amber's lawsuit was dismissed. The evidence of embezzlement was too strong. Her attorney advised her to drop it rather than face potential criminal charges. Is Robert going to press charges? He's considering it. Depends on whether he can recover any of the money. James paused. Derek's company declared bankruptcy yesterday. It's officially over. I absorbed this information. Derek's business, the one he'd built from nothing, the one I'd supported for years, was gone. How is he? You'd have to ask him. But Naomi, this isn't your fault. None of this is your fault. I know, I said. But did I? Or was there a part of me that had wanted this, had orchestrated it, had let it happen when I could have prevented it? Monica said I was smart. James said I was justified. Patricia said I was strong. But late at night, when the house was quiet and my children were sleeping, I wondered if I was something else entirely. If I was the kind of person who could watch someone she'd once loved destroy themselves. If I was the kind of person who could smile while it happened. And if that made me free or just fundamentally changed. Friday evening, I attended a networking event for local business owners. Monica had insisted I go, said I needed to make connections and celebrate my success. At the event, a man approached me. He was tall, handsome, well-dressed. You're Naomi Collins, right? The architect. I am. I'm Warren Price. I own a small chain of bookstores. I've been looking for an architect to redesign one of our locations. He smiled. I've heard great things about your work. We talked for 20 minutes. He was intelligent, charming, recently divorced himself. He asked for my card and promised to call. Monica nudged me as he walked away. He was interested. And not just in your architecture skills. I'm not ready for that. You don't have to be ready. You just have to be open. She grinned. One dinner doesn't mean forever. It just means dinner. Driving home, I thought about Derek's desperate plea at my door. About Warren's easy smile. About the version of myself I was becoming. Stronger. Independent. Successful. But also, perhaps, a little bit harder. And I wasn't sure yet if that was a price worth paying. The foreclosure notice arrived at Derek's apartment in mid-February. He called me from his car, parked outside my office, asking if he could come up. I'm with a client, I said, which was true. Warren Price sat across from my desk, reviewing bookstore renovation plans. Please, Naomi. I need help. Something in his voice made me pause. Not the desperation I'd heard that before, but something deeper. Something broken. Give me 20 minutes. Warren noticed my distraction. Everything okay? Ex-husband drama. I tried to focus back on the plans. Sorry? Where were we? The third floor layout. He pointed to my sketch. But if you need to go. I'm fine. Let's continue. But I wasn't fine. Because despite everything Derek had done, despite my anger and hurt and determination, there was still a part of me that hated hearing him in pain. When Warren left 40 minutes later, Derek was waiting in the building lobby. He looked worse than I'd ever seen him. His blue shirt was wrinkled, his face unshaven, his eyes red. They're taking my apartment, he said without preamble. I can't make rent. I'm moving into a one-bedroom across town. In a month, I might not have that either. What about your severance from the company closure? There was no severance. Bankruptcy takes everything. He followed me into my office, looking around at the success I'd built. You're doing well. I'm working hard. I sat at my desk. Derek, what do you want from me? A loan. Enough to cover a few months' rent while I find a stable job. No. Please. I'm not asking for us. I'm asking so I have somewhere for the kids to visit. So I don't end up homeless. I studied him. The man who'd asked for a divorce over New Year's breakfast. The man who'd moved his mistress into an apartment with our children. The man who'd chosen every wrong turn possible. Get a job, I said. Any job. Fast food, retail, whatever it takes. Work your way back up. I can't go from running my own company to flipping burgers. Yes, you can. People do it all the time. Pride is a luxury you can't afford right now. I pulled up my calendar. I'm not loaning you money, but I'll help you find a job. I know people. I'll make calls. His eyes filled with tears. Why would you help me? Because you're Tyler and Sophia's father. Because despite everything, I don't want them to see you living on the street. I met his gaze. But this is it, Derek. This is the only help you get from me. After this, you're on your own. That weekend I made calls. I reached out to clients, to old colleagues, to Monica's business contacts. By Monday, I had 3 job interviews lined up for Derek. None were glamorous, all were entry level. But they were employment. Thank you, he said when I sent him the information. I don't deserve this. No, you don't. But our children deserve a father who can support himself. He took the first job offered, a position at a construction company doing project management. The pay was half what he used to make, but it was steady work with benefits. Meanwhile, Tyler was struggling at school. His grades had dropped, and his teacher requested a meeting. He's distracted, Mrs. Patterson said, showing me his recent tests. And he's been getting into arguments with other students. Nothing physical since the last incident, but he's argumentative, defensive. He's dealing with a lot of change. I looked at Tyler's work, seeing the decline. I'll talk to him. Maybe get him some counseling. That evening, I sat with Tyler in his room. Your teacher says you're having a hard time. School's stupid. He was building with blocks, not looking at me. School's important. And I know you know that. I sat on his floor. What's really going on? Kids ask about Dad. About why he doesn't live here. About Amber. He knocked over his tower violently. I don't want to talk about it. Okay. But Tyler, you can always talk to me. About anything. Even if it's hard. He finally looked at me. Did you stop loving Dad? How did you answer that honestly without hurting your child? I'll always care about your dad because he's your father. But the kind of love that makes people married, that's different. And that changed when he made some choices that hurt our family. Did he stop loving you? I think he forgot how to put our family first. That's not the same as not loving us, but it had the same result. Tyler considered this. Sophia cries sometimes at night. She misses when we were all together. I know, baby. I do too. I pulled him into a hug. But we're okay, aren't we? You, me, and Sophia? We're making it work. Yeah, he said into my shoulder. We're okay. But he wasn't okay, not really. Neither was Sophia. And watching my children suffer for adult mistakes made me question everything I'd done. James called Wednesday with concerning news. Derek's filing for custody modification. He's asking for more time with the kids. On what grounds? He can barely support himself. He's claiming you alienated him from the children. That you manipulated the situation to get primary custody. James sounded skeptical. It won't work. We have documentation of everything. but it means a court appearance. When? 3 weeks. I hung up and immediately called Derek. Really? You're taking me to court? I want more time with my kids. You can have more time. Just ask me. We don't need lawyers for that. Every time I ask you say no. You control everything, Naomi. When I see them, for how long, under what conditions? His voice rose. They're my children too. Then act like it. Show up on time. Pay your child support. Be consistent. I was pacing my office. Don't waste money on lawyers when you can barely afford rent. My lawyer's working pro bono. A friend from college. Of course he is. I took a breath. Derek, this isn't going to work. You can't win this. Maybe not. But I have to try. The court date loomed over the next 3 weeks. James prepared our case, organizing documentation that showed Derek's instability, his poor choices, his inability to provide consistent care. We're going to win, James assured me. Judges care about stability above all else. You provide that. He doesn't. But winning in court didn't feel like winning when Tyler started having nightmares and Sophia regressed even further, needing her night light on and her door open to sleep. Patricia moved into my guest room temporarily to help more. You're stretched too thin, she said. Between work and the kids and this court nonsense, you need support. Monica brought dinner twice a week. Warren called to check on me, postponing our bookstore project until after the court date. You have a lot going on, he said kindly. We can wait. I appreciate that. And Naomi? When this is over, I'd like to take you to dinner. Not to discuss business. I hesitated. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. No pressure. Just whenever you are. His voice was warm. You deserve good things. Did I? I wasn't sure anymore. The night before court, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Derek's desperate face, about my children's confusion, about the chain of events I'd set in motion. I'd wanted Derek to face consequences. I'd wanted him to understand what he'd lost. I'd wanted justice. But somewhere along the way, justice had started to feel like revenge. And revenge had started to feel hollow. At 2 a.m. I called James. Naomi? What's wrong? I don't want to go to court tomorrow. What? We're prepared. We're going to win. I know. But Derek's right about one thing. I have been controlling everything. I sat in my dark living room. What if we offered a compromise? More visitation, split holidays, more flexibility? After everything he put you through, you want to give him more? I want my children to have their father. Really have him. Not some beaten-down version of him who only sees them every other weekend. I closed my eyes. He made terrible mistakes. But he's trying now. Working a job he hates, trying to rebuild. Maybe that deserves something. This is very generous. It's not generous. It's the right thing to do. I paused. Can you call his lawyer in the morning? Before court? See if we can settle? I'll try. James called back at 8 a.m. Derek agreed. He seems relieved actually. Wants to meet to discuss terms. We met at a mediator's office instead of court. Derek looked nervous in an ill-fitting suit, his pro bono lawyer beside him. I wore my red power dress, James next to me. Thank you for this, Derek said quietly. It's not for you. It's for Tyler and Sophia. I slid papers across the table. Here's what I'm proposing. Current custody stays, but you get them every weekend, not every other. Plus 1 evening during the week, your choice. All major holidays split evenly. Summer vacations split 50-50. His eyes widened. Really? On one condition. You stay employed. You stay stable. Any backsliding, we revert to the original agreement. I looked at him directly. I need to know they'll be safe and cared for when they're with you. They will be. I promise. One more thing. We attend co-parenting counseling. Together. To learn how to do this better. Derek nodded. Okay. Yes. Anything. We signed the agreement that afternoon. Walking out of the mediator's office, Derek stopped me. Naomi, I know you didn't have to do this. No, I didn't. Why did you? I thought about my children. About Tyler's nightmares and Sophia's regression. About the toll this was taking on all of us. Because holding on to anger was hurting everyone, I said. Including me. This isn't forgiveness, Derek. It's acceptance. Accepting that we're tied together because of our children, and we need to make the best of that. I'm still sorry. For all of it. I know. And I did. I could see it in every tired line of his face. You've moved on, haven't you? He looked at me with something like wonder. Not just from me. From all of this. You're happy. I'm getting there. I adjusted my purse. Take care of yourself, Derek. Our kids need you healthy. Driving home, I felt lighter than I had in months. Not because I'd won or because Derek had lost, but because I'd chosen grace over vindication. And maybe that was its own kind of victory. March brought rain and new beginnings. Derek picked up the children for his first full weekend under our new arrangement. He'd found a better apartment, a 2-bedroom that was clean if modest. He'd been at his job for 6 weeks and had already earned a small raise. We're going to the Science Museum, he told Tyler and Sophia as he loaded their bags. And then maybe the park if it stops raining. Can we get ice cream? Sophia asked. Absolutely. I watched them drive away, feeling the familiar pull of worry mixed with hope. Patricia joined me on the porch. You did the right thing, she said, giving him more time. I hope so. I turned back to the house. Sometimes I'm not sure. But Tyler's nightmares had stopped. Sophia was sleeping through the night again. They were adjusting to the new normal, and that had to count for something. My business continued to grow. The Henderson Center project was halfway complete, and the results were stunning. I'd turned the old building into a vibrant community space with natural light, flexible rooms, and thoughtful design. The board was thrilled. Warren and I had dinner the previous week. Not a date exactly, but not purely business either. We talked about architecture, about books, about life after divorce. He was kind, interesting, easy to be with. I'd like to see you again, he'd said at the end of the evening. I'd like that too, I'd admitted. Monica was delighted. Finally. You deserve someone who treats you well. It's just dinner. It's a start. Co-parenting counseling with Derek was awkward but productive. Our therapist, Dr. Williams, had us work through communication strategies and boundary setting. You both clearly love your children, she observed during our third session. That's your common ground. Build from there. Derek and I learned to text about logistics without emotion, to hand off the kids without tension, to exist in the same space for school events without drama. It wasn't friendship, but it was functional. And functional was good enough. April brought Tyler's 9th birthday. Derek and I planned a party together, the first thing we truly coordinated since the separation. Pizza or tacos? Derek texted. Pizza. Easier for kids. Cake from Thompson's Bakery? Perfect. Tyler wants chocolate. The party was at my house and Derek arrived early to help set up. We worked side by side hanging decorations, an odd echo of years past. Remember his 3rd birthday? Derek said, taping streamers. When he insisted on a dinosaur theme and ate so much cake he threw up? I laughed despite myself. And you stayed up with him all night while I slept. You were pregnant with Sophia. You needed the rest. For a moment, we existed in the memory, in the life we'd had before everything broke. Then Monica arrived with presents and the moment passed. The party was a success. 20 children ran through my house and yard, Tyler beaming at the center of attention. Derek and I managed the chaos together, and if anyone noticed the strain, they were kind enough not to mention it. After the guests left and the kids were in bed, Derek helped me clean up. Thank you for today, he said, loading the dishwasher. For letting me be part of it. You're his father. Of course you're part of it. He turned to face me. I need to tell you something. Amber's lawyer called. She's being charged with embezzlement. They want me to testify. Will you? Yes. What she did wasn't just to me. Other people invested in the company too. He dried a dish. Robert lost a lot of money. He deserves justice. How do you feel about that? Honestly? Relief. That she's facing consequences. That it's not just me suffering from what she did. He set the dish down. I was such a fool, Naomi. I threw away everything for someone who was using me. Yes, you were. I didn't sugarcoat it. But you're rebuilding. That counts for something. I see you with Warren sometimes. When you pick up the kids from my place. He didn't look at me. Is it serious? It's new. We're taking it slow. I wiped down the counter. But Derek, who I see isn't your concern anymore. I know. I just want you to be happy. I'm happy. Happier than I was. He nodded, accepting this. I should go. Early shift tomorrow. After he left, I sat in my quiet living room, thinking about the strange evolution of our relationship. From lovers to spouses to enemies to whatever we were now. Co-parents. Former partners. People tied together by love for their children if nothing else. May brought the completion of the Henderson Center. The grand opening was a community event with speeches, tours, and celebration. I stood at the back watching people explore the space I'd created, feeling profound satisfaction. Margaret Chin found me. Naomi, this is magnificent. You should be very proud. I am. And I was. Warren attended the opening, bringing flowers. Congratulations. This is incredible. Thank you for coming. I wouldn't miss it. He hesitated. I know you're still finding your footing after everything. But I want you to know I'm here. As a friend, as more than a friend, whatever you're comfortable with. I looked at this man who was offering me kindness without pressure, patience without expectations. I'd like to try more than friends, I said. If you're willing to go slow. His smile was genuine. I've got all the time in the world. Derek called that evening. I saw the photos of the community center online. It's beautiful, Naomi. Thank you. I mean it. You're really talented. I should have told you that more when we were together. Probably. I didn't disagree. I'm seeing someone too. A woman from work. Nothing serious yet, but she's kind. Good with the kids. I'm glad. And I was. Not because I didn't care, but because Derek moving on meant he'd stop looking backward. Her name's Rachel. She's a site supervisor. Smart, funny. He paused. I wanted you to know before the kids mentioned her. I appreciate that. The kids can meet her when you're both ready. Really? You're okay with it? Derek, we're divorced. You're going to date. As long as whoever you're with treats our children well, I'm okay with it. The relief in his voice was palpable. Thank you. For being reasonable about all of this. After we hung up, I thought about how far we'd both come. From the devastation of January to the tentative stability of May. From bitter enemies to cooperative co-parents. I'd set out for revenge, for justice, for him to understand what he'd lost. And he did understand. His life had collapsed, rebuilt, and found new footing on humbler ground. But somewhere along the way my own goals had shifted. Revenge had given way to indifference. Justice had transformed into grace. Anger had mellowed into acceptance. I'd won in every way that mattered. I had my children, my business, my independence. I had respect and success and the beginning of something new with Warren. And Derek? Derek had consequences and hard lessons and the slow, painful work of rebuilding. That was enough. That night, tucking in Tyler and Sophia, I felt the last pieces of my anger dissolve. Mom? Sophia said sleepily. Are you happy? Tyler had asked me the same question months ago when everything was raw and new. Then I'd said yes and meant it conditionally. Now I said yes and meant it completely. I'm very happy, baby. Good, she murmured, already drifting off. We're happy too. And that, more than anything else, was the victory I'd been seeking all along. Summer arrived with long days and warm evenings. Collins Architecture had been in business for 6 months, and I'd just hired 2 more employees. My office buzzed with activity, phone calls, client meetings, the organized chaos of a growing company. You need to see this, Alicia said, bursting into my office one Tuesday morning. She held up a magazine. Page 43. I flipped to the page and found a feature article, Rising Stars in Architecture, 5 Firms to Watch. Collins Architecture was number 2, with photos of the Henderson Center and a glowing write-up about my innovative community-focused designs. Oh my God, I breathed. This is huge. Alicia was practically dancing. Do you know how many people read this magazine? Monica called 10 minutes later, screaming. Have you seen it? You're famous. I'm not famous. I'm in one article. One national article. In the biggest architecture magazine in the country. She laughed. Naomi, this is going to change everything. She was right. By Thursday, I had 15 new consultation requests. By the following week, I was fielding calls from across the state. My small firm was suddenly in demand. I had to make a choice, grow strategically or get overwhelmed. I chose growth. By midsummer, I'd moved into a larger office space and hired a business manager to help handle the administrative load. I brought on another architect and 2 interns. We had projects booked through the next year. The Community Center project won an award from the State Architecture Association. I attended the ceremony in a royal blue gown, Warren beside me in a suit. I'm proud of you, he said as they called my name. On stage, accepting the award, I looked out at the crowd and saw Derek in the back row. He'd come, though I hadn't invited him. When our eyes met, he smiled and gave me a small nod. Later, he approached me at the reception. Congratulations. Really. You deserve this. Thank you for coming. I wanted to see it. Wanted the kids to know their mom is doing important work. He seemed genuine. Tyler and Sophia talk about you constantly. About your buildings, your designs, how you're changing the city. They're good kids. They are. Rachel really likes them, by the way. We're taking things slow, but I think it might be serious. I'm happy for you, Derek. Truly. And I was. His happiness didn't diminish mine anymore. Tyler and Sophia thrived that summer. They went to camp, spent weekends with Derek and Rachel, and afternoons with Patricia when I was working late. They were adjusted, happy, secure. Tyler was doing well in school again, his grades back up. Sophia had made new friends and joined a dance class. They fought like normal siblings and laughed more than they argued. Warren became a regular presence in our lives. He'd have dinner with us once or twice a week, nothing forced, just easy companionship. The kids liked him. He was patient with their questions, interested in their lives, never trying to replace Derek but carving out his own space. Is Warren your boyfriend? Sophia asked one evening. He's my friend who I also date sometimes, I said carefully. Do you love him? I care about him very much. Love takes time. Okay. She went back to her coloring, satisfied. Patricia moved back to her own house in August, though she still came over regularly. You don't need me here full-time anymore, she said. You've got this. I couldn't have done it without you, Mom. Yes, you could have. But I'm glad you didn't have to. She hugged me. I'm so proud of who you've become. September brought school starting, fall schedules, routine settling in. Derek and I had our co-parenting arrangement down to a smooth operation. We communicated efficiently, coordinated schedules, showed up for school events without drama. We'd never be friends, not really. Too much had happened, too many bridges burned. But we were good co-parents, and that was better than many divorced couples managed. One Saturday in late September, I took the kids to Derek's apartment to drop them off for the weekend. Rachel answered the door, smiling warmly. Hi, Naomi. Come in. Derek's just finishing up a phone call. I'd met Rachel before briefly. She was in her late 30s, grounded and practical, with kind eyes and an easy manner with the children. How have they been? She asked, helping Sophia with her backpack. Good. Tyler has a science project due Monday, so make sure he works on it this weekend. Got it? Derek emerged from the bedroom, phone in hand. Sorry about that. Work call. How's the job going? I asked. Good. Really good, actually. They're promoting me to senior project manager next month. He looked proud. More money, more responsibility. That's great, Derek. I'm happy for you. Listen, I know this might be weird, but Rachel and I wanted to invite you and Warren to dinner sometime. Like all of us. Co-parent dinner thing. I considered it. 6 months ago, I would have said no immediately. But now, with time and distance and healing, it seemed less threatening. Let me talk to Warren. But maybe. Driving home, I called Warren and told him about the invitation. What do you want to do? He asked. Part of me thinks it's a terrible idea. But part of me thinks it might be good. For the kids to see us all getting along. Then we do it. For the kids. The dinner happened 2 weeks later at a casual restaurant. It was awkward at first, the four of us sitting around a table with our complicated history. But Rachel was funny and easy to talk to. Warren was charming. Derek was relaxed in a way I hadn't seen him in years. And I was comfortable in my own skin, confident in my choices. We talked about our jobs, about the kids, about sports and movies, and nothing particularly deep. By the end of the evening, it felt almost normal. We should do this again, Rachel suggested. Maybe, I said, non-committal but not opposed. October brought cooler weather and my 1-year anniversary of discovering Derek's affair. I marked it privately, noting how far I'd come. From devastation to planning to execution to where I stood now. I'd built a successful business. I'd established a healthy co-parenting relationship. I'd started a promising relationship with a good man. I'd healed. The anger that had fueled me through January and February was gone, replaced by something calmer. Acceptance. The understanding that Derek's betrayal had been terrible but had also freed me to become who I was meant to be. Warren and I became official that month. Not married, not living together, but committed and happy. He'd met Patricia, who approved wholeheartedly. He's good for you, she said. Stable, kind, supportive. Everything Derek wasn't. Derek's not a bad person, I found myself defending. He just wasn't the right person for me. Patricia smiled. Listen to you. All healed and magnanimous. I laughed. I wouldn't say healed, but better. Tyler's school had a father-son event in November. Derek attended, and afterward Tyler was full of stories. Dad and I built a birdhouse. He said we can hang it in your yard since my room is here. He was chattering happily. And he told Mr. Patterson that you're a famous architect. I'm not famous. That's what Dad said you'd say. But you are. You're in magazines and everything. That night Derek texted, "Thanks for raising such great kids. I know I don't say it enough, but they're amazing because of you. I stared at the text for a long time before responding. They're amazing because they're loved by both of us. His response came quickly. You're a better person than me, Naomi. Always were. I didn't respond to that. Some truths didn't need acknowledgement. December approached, and with it, the anniversary of Derek's New Year's Day request for divorce. I thought about that morning often, how I'd smiled and agreed, how I'd set my plan in motion. Had I been cruel? Strategic? Justified? Probably all three. But I'd also been hurt, angry, and desperate for control in a situation where I felt powerless. I'd made choices I could live with even if they weren't perfect. Even if, in hindsight, some might judge them as harsh. Because at the end of the day, I'd protected myself and my children. I'd built something meaningful from the ashes of my marriage. I'd survived and thrived. And that was enough. New Year's Eve arrived exactly 1 year after Derek had asked for a divorce. I stood in my kitchen making breakfast for Tyler and Sophia, the morning sun streaming through windows that I'd had professionally cleaned the week before. Everything felt lighter, brighter, new. Mom, can we stay up until midnight tonight? Tyler asked, already dressed in his green shirt and jeans. Maybe until 11, I compromised. We're having a party here, remember? Patricia was hosting and we'd invited Monica, Warren, and a few other friends. Derek had the kids on New Year's Day itself, following our split holiday schedule. The doorbell rang mid-morning. I opened it to find a delivery person with an enormous floral arrangement. Naomi Collins? That's me. The flowers were stunning. Bright red roses, blue irises, vibrant yellows and purples. The card read, "To new beginnings and beautiful futures. Warren." I called him immediately. The flowers are gorgeous. But you didn't have to. I wanted to. This day last year your life changed. I wanted to mark how far you've come. That afternoon I walked through my house, preparing for the evening. The home was truly mine now, refinanced in my name only. I'd redecorated over the summer, choosing colors and furniture that reflected my taste, not compromise. My office downtown was thriving. We'd just landed another major project, a museum renovation that would take 2 years. I had 8 employees now, a waiting list of clients, and a reputation for innovative, community-focused design. Patricia arrived early to help cook. How are you feeling? She asked, chopping vegetables. Good. Really good. I pulled champagne from the refrigerator. A year ago I was terrified. Angry. Hurt. Now I'm just grateful. Grateful? That Derek asked for the divorce. That he made the choice so I didn't have to. I started setting out glasses. If he hadn't left, I might have stayed. Stayed unhappy, stayed small, stayed stuck. You're not the staying stuck type. Maybe not. But I might not have had the courage to blow up my life without him doing it first. Monica arrived at 6 with enough food to feed 20 people. Warren came at 7 bringing wine and games for the kids. Can I talk to you for a minute? He asked, pulling me aside before other guests arrived. We stepped onto the back porch, the winter air cold but clear. I know it's only been 6 months, he started. And I know you're still finding your footing. But Naomi, I'm in love with you. I don't need you to say it back. I just needed you to know. My heart, which I'd thought was locked away forever, opened just a little wider. I'm not there yet, I said honestly. But I'm getting there. You're patient and kind and everything I didn't know I needed. That's enough for me. He kissed my forehead. For now and for as long as it takes. The party was perfect. Laughter filled my home, friends gathered around my table, my children running through rooms that echoed with joy instead of tension. At 10:30, Derek called to wish the kids a happy new year. Tyler and Sophia took turns talking to him, their conversation easy and comfortable. How's your party? Tyler asked him. Is Rachel there? Are you having fun? I could hear Derek's response, muffled but warm. He was happy too in his own way with his own rebuilt life. At 11 we gathered in the living room for the countdown. Patricia had sparkling cider for the kids, champagne for the adults. As the clock ticked toward the new year, I looked around at the people I loved. My mother, who'd supported me through everything. Monica, who'd believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Warren, who'd shown me what healthy love looked like. My children, resilient and thriving despite the upheaval. 10, 9, 8, everyone counted down together. 7, 6, 5. I thought about Derek in his apartment with Rachel, starting fresh. I wished him well. Truly. 4, 3, 2. I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago, eating breakfast while her world collapsed. 1. Happy New Year. Glasses clinked, people hugged, and I felt Warren's arms around me. Happy New Year, Naomi. Happy New Year. After everyone left and the kids were asleep, I sat alone in my living room. The house was quiet, littered with the pleasant debris of celebration. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Happy New Year. Thank you for everything this year. For being fair when you didn't have to be. For helping me become a better father. I hope this year brings you everything you deserve. I typed back, Happy New Year. I hope you're happy. His response came quickly, I'm getting there. Just like you said you were. I smiled, setting down my phone. January 1st arrived with snow, soft and clean, covering everything in white. I made pancakes for breakfast, Tyler and Sophia helping me mix batter. What are your resolutions? I asked them. I want to get better at soccer, Tyler said. I want to learn to do a cartwheel, Sophia added. Those are good goals. I'm proud of you both. What's your resolution, Mom? Tyler asked. I thought about it. A year ago, my resolution would have been survival. 6 months ago, it would have been success. Now, to keep being grateful, I said. For what we have, for where we are, for how far we've come. That afternoon, Derek picked up the kids for his New Year's Day visitation. Rachel was with him, and they looked happy together, his arm around her waist as they helped the kids into the car. See you tomorrow, I called to Tyler and Sophia. Bye, Mom. Love you. Love you too. I watched them drive away, feeling the familiar tug. But it was gentler now, less painful. Just the normal feeling of a parent watching their children go, knowing they'd return. Inside, my quiet house felt peaceful instead of empty. I made tea and sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Derek had asked for a divorce exactly 1 year ago. I thought about that moment, about my smile, about my calculated response. I'd been playing a long game, setting pieces in motion for a victory I'd defined as his suffering. But the real victory had been something else entirely. It had been building my business, establishing my independence, healing my children, learning to co-parent effectively, finding the capacity to forgive, if not forget, and maybe, eventually learning to love again. Warren called. How was the handoff? Smooth. Easy. I sipped my tea. Want to come over for dinner tonight? Just us. I'd love that. That evening, Warren and I cooked together in my kitchen. We talked about his bookstore expansion, about my museum project, about simple, easy things. I've been thinking, he said over dessert, about the future, about us. And I know you're not ready for anything serious yet. But when you are, I want you to know I'm all in. Marriage, partnership, whatever that looks like for you. I reached across the table, taking his hand. Ask me again in 6 months. He smiled. That's not a no. That's not a no. Later, after he left, I stood at my bedroom window looking out at the snow-covered street. My reflection stared back at me and I barely recognized her. She was stronger than the woman who'd found those texts. Braver than the woman who'd smiled through breakfast while her marriage ended. Wiser than the woman who'd thought revenge would heal her. She was someone new. Someone built from pain and anger and determination, but also from grace and growth and the willingness to change. My phone chimed with an email. A potential client requesting a consultation. A family wanting to build their dream home. I opened my laptop and started drafting a response. Because this was who I was now. An architect building spaces for others to live their lives. A mother raising children to be resilient and kind. A woman learning to love again, carefully, with eyes wide open. The story that had started with a divorce request over New Year's breakfast had become something else entirely. Not a tragedy, though it had tragic elements. Not a revenge tale, though revenge had played its part. It was a story about transformation. About a woman who'd lost everything she thought she wanted and discovered she was capable of building something better. 3 months later, in April, the museum project broke ground. I stood at the ceremony, hard hat on my head, watching the first shovel of dirt turn over. Margaret Chin approached me. Naomi, have you considered entering the National Architecture Award competition? Your work deserves that recognition. I'll think about it, I said. In May, Tyler's birthday party included both Derek and Warren, both Rachel and Monica. We all sat together, eating cake, watching children play. It was complicated and imperfect and surprisingly okay. In June, I said yes when Warren asked me to take a weekend trip together. We drove to the coast, walked on beaches, talked about futures plural instead of future singular. In July, Derek and Rachel got engaged. He called to tell me before telling the kids. Congratulations, I said, meaning it. She's good for you. She is. And Naomi? Thank you. For giving me the space to figure out who I needed to be. In August, I won a regional architecture award. The ceremony was smaller than the state one, but no less meaningful. In September, I hired employee number 10 and started looking at bigger office space. In October, Warren said he loved me for the 10th time and I finally said it back. In November, Tyler made honor roll and Sophia's dance recital brought me to tears. In December, I stood in my kitchen on New Year's Eve 2 years after Derek's request, and realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd thought about revenge. Because I'd won. Not by destroying Derek, though he'd destroyed himself well enough. Not by taking everything, though I'd taken what mattered most. I'd won by building a life so full of purpose and joy and love that the past simply stopped mattering. Derek had asked for a divorce, expecting devastation. Instead, he'd given me freedom. He'd lost a wife, 2 children full-time, his business, his reputation, and his pride. I'd lost a husband who didn't value me. And I'd gained everything else. As midnight approached on this second New Year's Eve, I raised my glass surrounded by people who loved me, in a home that was truly mine, with a future that was full of possibility. To new beginnings, I said. To new beginnings, everyone echoed. And somewhere across town, Derek was probably saying the same thing, having learned his own lessons the hard way. We both survived. We both rebuilt. We both found versions of happiness on opposite sides of our destroyed marriage. But I'd smiled first. That New Year's morning 2 years ago, I'd smiled because I knew something he didn't. I knew I'd be okay. I knew I was stronger than he thought. I knew that sometimes the best revenge wasn't revenge at all, but simply living well. And I'd been right. The clock struck midnight. A new year began. And I was exactly where I was supposed to be.